According to the Adoption Network, there are more than 400,000 children in the foster care system, and of these kids, 114,000 cannot be returned to their families and are still waiting to be adopted. There are already so many kids in the system and not enough families to take care of them. However, this problem is projected to become worse because of the Trump administration's rollback on the 2016 legislation, which included sexual orientation and gender identity as protected classes. Recently, a brief has been sent to the Supreme Court that argues for the restriction of same-sex couples from accessing foster care, adoption agencies, or other entities that get department funding, allowing them to discriminate on faith-based grounds. Since I have many friends and family who are part of the LGBT community, this issue is of great importance to me, and I wouldn't want them to be prevented from starting a family just because of their sexual orientation. In this speech, I will be arguing against the discrimination of LGBT couples seeking to foster or adopt, and I will do this by going into detail about the harmful effects this decision would have on the welfare of children in need of homes, and by talking about the arguments as to why it should be allowed and the flaws in these arguments, and what you can do to help stop discrimination against LGBT families. Currently, we are at an all-time high for the demand to foster parents, and factors such as opioid addiction is forcing more and more children to be removed from their homes. Denying the population of LGBT families the ability to adopt or foster will make the demand for foster parents skyrocket even more, especially since they are known to foster and adopt at much higher rates than heterosexual couples. According to a 2018 report from the Williams Institute at UCLA Law, over 21% of gay couples are raising adopted children, compared with 3% of straight couples. Also, nearly 3% of gay couples have foster children, compared with 0.4% of straight couples. Additionally, studies show that LGBT families are more likely to take in older, special needs, and minority children. It is also unfair for these couples who live in more rural areas and don't have a lot of options for different adoption agencies in the case that they are rejected. Despite this, the main argument in favor of the discrimination is that by providing service to LGBT families, it violates the religious beliefs of faith-based adoption agencies, and therefore infringes on their right to freedom of speech. However, the flaw in this argument is that religious freedom is not about policing what other people can and cannot do. By coming from the mindset of, my religion says you can't do that, you are forcing the values of your religion onto others, which infringes on their freedom to not affiliate with that religion. Instead, the correct mindset to have is, my religion says I can't do that. Even so, people still try to get around this by saying, my religion does not allow me to let you do that. But this thinking is just as flawed. At that point, you can argue that the discrimination of any group is acceptable because it's a part of your religion. You could argue your religion does not allow you to serve people who are a certain gender or ethnicity. The only difference is that we have protection from the government that prevents these forms of discrimination. And that is why we need something of the same effect, but for the members of the LGBT community. In the meantime, there are already 11 states and more considering that permit state-licensed child welfare agencies to refuse to place and provide services to children and families, including LGBT people and same-sex couples, if doing so conflicts with their religious beliefs. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court's conservative majority seems prepared to rule in favor of discriminating against potential foster parents on the basis of sexual orientation. However, the outcome of these cases will likely not be decided on until June of next year, so there is still time to fight for change. In the past, Supreme Court justices generally tend to bend towards the public opinion, regardless of political affiliations. Therefore, by spreading more awareness on the issue so that a majority of the public are against this discrimination, it is very possible that it could affect the outcome of the decision. The most obvious way to go about this is to educate your peers on the nuances of this issue. Even though the 2020 election has passed, since this is an ongoing issue, voting and making your opinion heard can help a lot in the long run as well. Additionally, you can sign petitions that support the Every Child Needs a Family Act or join the Open to All campaign against discrimination. And I will put links to finding more information about these campaigns and a petition to sign on change.org in the description below. In conclusion, the federal government should not be in the business of forcing child welfare providers to choose between helping children and their faith. If this discrimination is allowed to continue, it will be harder for children in the system to find a home and perpetuate an unhealthy cycle of forcing religion onto others who have different beliefs. If you are feeling on the fence about this issue, I encourage you to think of how this might affect the children in need of homes and any of your loved ones in the LGBT community. They don't deserve to have their rights taken away. Thank you for listening.